Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I'm going to start off by showing you an instrument that you're probably not familiar with. I have had it here once in a while, but not often. In fact, I'm going to show you two this morning. And this looks just like a tube. It comes from the Caribbean. It has a lot of nice little designs on it, which I'm sure are hand done. It's a wooden instrument, and if you look at it closely, it looks like it does not have a mouthpiece. Where is the mouthpiece? It's not on the bottom. That just comes to a point, just like any other flute. And on the top, you don't see a mouthpiece. But there actually is one in there. So I'm going to explain what it is. This is what's called an end-blown flute. In other words, it doesn't have a regular mouthpiece like a recorder does, or like any other wooden instrument or other woodwind instrument, but it does have a place to get air into, and it does have a labium, and I'm going to show you where it is. If I take the instrument and tip it, so you were looking at the top of it, there is a little, I have to review this myself, there's a little edge there, I think you're getting it okay, where you blow into. You blow into that. That's its mouthpiece. And there's a little place underneath it that's a little darker color. That's the block. So you really do have a place to blow in air, and you have a place that's a block, which all the recorders have. So where's the labium? Well, the labium is on the other side of the instrument. It's right here. And it has like the little window, and it has that little place that kind of angles in. So it's really just like a recorder, except for the fact that it's designed differently, but it has all of the characteristics of the recorder. So if you play it, I'm not going to play it, I will blow into it. You have to hold it so that, because the tone holes, this is the front. The labium is in the back, you don't even see it. And you put it in, and it has a pretty good tone. The air goes out this way. So it's a very unusual arrangement, and if you were just to look at it, it looks like it's just a plain tube and there's nothing else in it. And of course, but it's a nice instrument, and it has a pretty good tone. And as I said, it's from the Caribbean. It's all hand decorated. I have quite a few instruments that are hand decorated from the Caribbean, and I have several that are end-blown flutes, and it's always a challenge to play them because everything seems backward. The labium is in the wrong place. There's no particular mouthpiece to it if they're end blown. All the mouthpiece is right in the end of the instrument at the end of the tube. It's not specially shaped like you have in the recorders. So this is a Caribbean instrument that does play. It's easy to play. It's a nice little instrument. The other one I wanted to show you, this is a Renaissance recorder. And it looks like a regular recorder, but if you look at it carefully, you're going to see that's designed a little bit differently. I'll hold up the recorders that I usually play, and you can see that they're much more ornate. Let me do this one at a time, I guess. The ones that I usually play, if you look at the way it's designed, it's much more ornate than this little one that happens to be very plain and very straight, but it has the mouthpiece, it has the tone hole in the back, it has the finger holes in the front, it plays just like a regular recorder. Has a nice little sound, but it is designed in a way that the Renaissance in that Renaissance type of history, and that's what it is. It's a Renaissance LMI recorder. It's not ancient. It's made in modern times. It is wood. Wooden instruments actually do seem to have a better value than other instruments do, even though the plastics play perfectly well. So those are the two that I wanted to show you this morning. I'm bringing in, as you know, from time to time, instruments that you might not see unless you watch this program, because I have an extensive collection. Now let's get to the charts. I'm interested in getting this chart up here. And I want you to look at all of the notes. You're not going to be able to kind of pick out individual notes, but if we can scan this so that we see the whole thing, good, that's great. This is a whole bunch of notes, isn't it? You would be amazed to know that for instruments, they may not be able to play all of those notes, but there's a big, big range of notes that you can play. So let me point out, these aren't the only notes. There's a lot here, but these aren't the only notes because, I didn't put any sharps and flats in. I just put in the major notes. So here's your middle C right here. And I've told you before, the middle C is halfway between the bass clef and the treble clef. I actually could have drawn it here. It might have been a little bit more accurate, but it is halfway between the bass clef, which is down here. This whole line is the bass clef, and there I do have a bass insignia. Let me pull this. This might be able to see it. Yeah, okay, that's even better. This is the bass clef. This is the symbol for the bass clef, and all of these notes are all bass clef notes. Then you get to the middle C. All of these notes to the right are treble clef notes. Now the middle C, as I said, is halfway between the bass and the treble clef. This is a C. This is a 1-octave C. It's kind of like a mid-range C right here. This is what's called high C. That's 2 octaves up. This is another C. If you look at the ledger lines, there are 5 ledger lines on this. Let me just move it down here a little. Okay, 5 ledger lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one is right here. That's also C, and it's called C above high C. So middle C or low C if you're playing a woodwind instrument, the mid-range C, the high C, and the C above high C with all the ledger lines. That's all within the treble clef. Now, what kinds of instruments play in these ranges? Well, I'm going to show you a keyboard in a minute, but the melody flutes play, a lot of them play just 1 octave, so it's here to here. And that would be your tonettes, your song flutes, flutophones, some ocarinas, some melodicas. Then you get from here to here, there's your 2-octave range. What plays that? Well, you have your sassutos, your penny whistles, some ocarinas, some melodicas play up in that 2 range. It's really quite a bit of music there. And then the regular flute can get from this middle C or low C. The flute does not play below that. That's the lowest note for the flute. But it can play up here. That's very, very hard to read. But you can play up here, so the flute can get all of that. They can get C above high C. Now, I didn't put any more higher than that, but a piano can even get another octave beyond that. For the bass, I haven't got so much in the bass, but as you can see, here's your C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. There's another C on the bass clef, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, and that's another C right there. So I have 2 more octaves of C's on the bass clef, and we've got 4 octaves of C's on the treble clef, and I'm not even including sharps and flats. I'm just including major notes. So it looks like a lot of music, and it is, but what if you have an instrument that only plays 1 octave? Well, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean you can't play much. You actually can play quite a bit. These other notes are just octaves of these basic notes, either below or higher, but still just octaves of the same notes, because you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then it goes on from there, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then it goes on to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and those notes are repeated in different ranges, in different octaves, all up and down the keyboard. So I just want to show you that so you get an idea of the range of instruments and how many notes you really have. Now, you wouldn't be playing, if you're playing a woodwind, you wouldn't be playing down here. Trombone, some French horns. The bass instruments can play that. The bass recorders could even play some of this. So there are other instruments. If you're playing the melody flute, you're playing the treble clef, usually not the bass clef. And then these are the ranges that you would get. That's a lot of music when you consider these notes are repeated over and over again. Sometimes if I play a piece of music and I don't have the octave capability to go up or down, I just change the octave and play whatever octave the instrument can play. And I get all the notes in that way. So let me take this down. And I want to do these charts now because I want to make sure you get a sense of it. The charts that I bring in don't always have an 88 range for keyboard, but these charts that I'm bringing in today all have 88 keys. There's 88 keys, so this is a full range keyboard, a full range piano. If you were sitting in front of it to play it, you'd be sitting like about right here. Your right hand would be playing these notes. This is all treble clef, and your left hand would be playing all of those notes there. That would be bass clef. But it doesn't mean that you don't switch over. In some music that's complicated, you may have your right hand switching over and playing some bass, and your left hand reaching over and playing some treble. So for a while you're playing a little bit like this. Now that's in more complicated, more difficult music, but it does occur. Now let me show you, this is an 88 keyboard, and this is what a piano has. So here is your middle C, and it's toward the middle of the piano, but it's not exactly in the middle. It's a little bit to the left, but more or less toward the piano. And then this is another C, 1 octave up. This is another C, 1 octave up. This is another C, 1 octave up, and this is the final C, 1 octave up. So all of these, you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4 octaves beyond middle C, which is right here. And then you have 3 octaves of Cs on the bass clef, this one, and this one, with 2 other notes. And so that's the limit of what you can do on the piano. And I want to show you toward the bottom of this chart. Here is your middle C right here. Here is the mid-range C right here. I've just got it written out on the staff so it'll kind of match where it is. Then you have another high C right here. I also put the A in there, and the reason I put the A in there is I want you to see the change in the ledger lines. That high C has 2 ledger lines in it. It's above the staff by 2 lines. The A has 1 ledger line in it. Then when you get to the C above high C, that's going to be right here, and you have 5 ledger lines. You can get a line down here and put a stem in. I didn't. I just wanted you to see the ledger lines. And this is what the piano plays that none of the other instruments can play. Now, this is really a full range, but there are some animals that can hear sounds that are above it. We don't hear too much above the keyboard range. We can hear some, but the piano can only hold so many keys, and you can only physically handle so many keys because your hands are only so big and your arms can only stretch so far. But animals and maybe some people can hear higher than the C above high C. And when you get to the C above high C, there is another octave here for the piano that woodwinds cannot play at all. But they can't write it in, because if they wrote it in, you'd have like 10 ledger lines, and you'd be just having lines all over the place. It would be much too difficult to read, so they would write an 8 VA, and an 8 VA means play it an octave higher than it's been written. So when you get to notes like this, a piano would play maybe an octave higher, but you wouldn't write it any higher. You would write it like this and add the 8 VA. So this gives you a chance to see just how great the range is, and it may not be a complete range in terms of hearing, but most people don't hear much more than that. And animals can hear more. Animals can hear things that we can't hear. They make sounds, they make whistles for animals that you can't hear if you blow them, but the animal can hear them. So the range of sounds is really greater than what the piano has, but it really has a lot of range. So let me put this down, and we'll put this one up. Here's another 88 key keyboard. And your middle C, don't pay any attention to this. It doesn't match anything here. I wrote it in, but don't pay any attention to it. We're going to only work with the top part of this. Here is your middle C. Good, that's a good shot. Here is your middle C, and here is the C above middle C. And I have a line here. I just drew it in. The range of sound that you can get from some of the melody flutes that's only one octave, what plays what? Well, the tonettes, the song flutes, some of the ocarinas, some of the flutophones, some of the ocarinas, some of the melodicas, depending upon their limitations, play that one octave. There's your one octave range, and I'll be demonstrating that a little later. Then you have your second octave range from here to here. Those instruments that have the 2 octave range can play from this middle C, which is low C to them, up to about here. Sometimes you can get 1 or 2 more notes, but usually that's about the range. And so I've got this line drawn up here. So what instruments play those? Well, you have your melodicas, recorders, ocarinas, penny whistles, and sassoto flutes that play in this range. The Clark's flutes, the Shaw's flutes, they're all like penny whistle flutes. They have this 2 octave range. Now, if you look at the scope of things, that's really quite a bit of notes. You can play a lot. And remember, I'm emphasizing not even the sharps and the flats. So here's another range right up here. This is C above high C. It would be this one right here, and that's a 3 octave range. So instruments that play for a 3 octave range start with your middle C and go up to 3 octaves. So what plays that? The flutes, the regular flutes. None of the melody flutes that I have would be able to tackle that range up there. They might be able to get 1 or 2 notes, but not much. So you have the 1 octave range melody flutes, 2 octave range melody flutes. The regular flutes can play up to here, and the 4 octaves up here beyond it would be played by the piano only. You'd not be able to play any of the woodwinds up here. It's just playing too high. So that gives you, I want to give you a picture of where the ranges of all the instruments are. So now I'm going to take this down. Watch my time here, and I'll show you this. All right, this is a larger chart, and it is 88 notes. It's a full range keyboard, and what I've done is I've kind of blocked this off. This is the C to the C to the C. This is what a recorder, penny whistle, and sassoto flute can play, and of course the regular flutes can play it too. And what I've done is I've shown you the notes on the staff, matching them up with the keyboard. This probably isn't the easiest way to see it, and then I've done the fingerings of all of those notes, the recorder fingerings on all of those notes, and underneath I have put the ranges. This is a 1 octave range from C to C, and this is the 2 octave range from C to C, and then you have the 3rd octave range, which is right here for the flutes, and then only the pianos can get this. Now the woodwind instruments do not play, as a general rule, the bass clef. That would be played by other instruments, but you have plenty of bass clef instruments in an orchestra: trombone, basses, French horns, sousaphones. I mean, there's a range of them that play all of those bass notes. They would not be able to play these. They would be too high. The woodwinds play that. So all of the instruments in the orchestra have certain ranges that they play, and they all blend together to make the music that you can get, a full-scale music. The piano happens to be able to get just about all of it. Now, it's too late for me to start something else, so I'm going to close it here. But next segment, I'm going to go and show you a couple more charts that I want to demonstrate other instruments and how they can play and sound. So I'll be doing more instrument work next week. So please join me then.